Buenos dias, wrestling fans. This is El Trueno Gordito here, and this is my very first episode of my wrestling. I guess you could call it a podcast. I know it's on YouTube, or you might be accessing it through Tumblr, but it's still a podcast because you're not seeing my face. So I'll call it an audio cast, I guess. Give you a little background. I've been a wrestling fan my entire life, and I figured that there's not nearly enough people spouting their opinions about wrestling on the internet, so why not add one more? Now, the difference is, I'm in a mask. Can't see that I'm in a mask. Absolutely in a mask. Check the promo images. So, I'm going to start off real simple. I don't want to get too high and mighty or too pedantic on this cast. So, I'm going to start off. I went to a wrestling Facebook group that I frequent on Facebook, and I'll link it in the description below. But I asked them for some options for topics I'd like to hear about, and I also suggested some topics that I planned on doing. The very first one I'm going to do is one that I've been mulling around in my head for a while. And it's going to be called, what is called, When Did Jerry Lawler Stop Being Relevant? Now, for those of you who don't know who Jerry Lawler is, which would be really hard, considering if you're listening to this, you're probably a wrestling fan and you'd know all about him. Huge star in Memphis wrestling, won upwards of 100 different regional titles over the course of his career, and has been a staple on the WWE announce team between Raw and SmackDown for years. Back in the 90s, when he started coming over to WWE, I think he was still doing some Memphis stuff as well, because I think even Vince McMahon got involved with some angles while he was in Memphis. He was kind of like a half wrestler, half announcer. He started off just wrestling. He had an angle with Bret Hart that was okay. It was alright. I wasn't really impressed by it, but it definitely added some humor, because that's what Lawler does best, really, is humor. And then he kind of made the transition to the announce table, where in the 90s, in the Attitude Era, it was kind of it's funny, he was hilarious to us at the time. But the thing too is about WWE is back in the 90s, their audience was significantly different. The target audience, they wanted to really kind of appeal to teenagers, 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds. They wanted a more adult product. And so, of course, you want to Jerry Lawler's always had a sophomore sense of humor. As much as we might find it charming and kind of folksy, he was consistently talking about the divas in certain ways and puppies, and we all know about that. We're not stupid. But I think what's happened over the course of his career as an announcer is that as an audience we've kind of matured. And what it is too, not that women haven't always been fans of wrestling, but I think they're being more vocal about their appreciation for wrestling, and Jerry Lawler's sense of humor is not the kind of sense of humor that appeals to a large female audience. He can be very sexist, very derogatory, and that's what I really think has been going on, because I remember when Jerry Lawler was lauded, him and JR, man, were like the Bert and Ernie of wrestling announcers. They were just a huge team together, and that's pretty much how it went, was that they were constantly working together in that sense. And they were really celebrated for it, because for as ridiculous and outlandish as Jerry Lawler could get, JR was always that kind of rock that kept him balanced. And a lot of people make an akin to Bobby Heenan and Gorilla Monsoon, which I wouldn't go that far. Heenan and Monsoon had a chemistry like no one else, and I wouldn't want to compare them, just like I wouldn't compare anybody to Gordon Solie, even though everyone likes to kind of take JR and say JR is the next Gordon Solie. Gordon Solie is Gordon Solie, and JR is JR. But first, when they split JR and Jerry Lawler up at the, I don't know if you guys remember the lottery. Remember, they did that draft lottery thing back in the day when the brands were split, and they split the two up, and that was kind of the beginning of the end, because they had that chemistry together. And unfortunately JR has had some issues, and he's been let go and brought back and let go, and it's almost kind of like WWE likes kicking JR while he's down, but I'm not saying he's innocent either. I know he had some issues with Ric Flair recently, and that's why he I say recently, I think it was about 6 months ago, and then Jerry Lawler was kind of on his own with these young announcers who have a different style. And Michael Cole I don't consider a young announcer, but Michael Cole is, again, he's the straight man, even though he had that little stint of an angle against Jerry Lawler, which I hated that. Michael Cole's not the kind of person I want to get more screen time. He shouldn't be in the ring. I mean, if you want him in the ring so he can get squashed by a monster to kind of give the monster more credibility or more viciousness, that's one thing. But don't put Michael Cole in a match. Don't put him in neon orange singlets and headgear and have him prance around. And no, it doesn't work. But I mean, that's the thing is, I feel like at this point in his career, Jerry Lawler should probably be focused on, I don't know, doing stuff like playing the veteran role. You know what I mean? Like, he has so much experience and so many years of input, and I'd like to see him kind of tone down, like, the wacky, hey, look at me, I'm Jerry Lawler, and I'm edgy, or trying to be edgy. And he was edgy in the 90s, now he's just kind of cheesy. Fun fact, Cheesy was one of the names of the little people that he had wrestling on his Survivor Series team. I don't know if you guys remember that. It was Squeezy, Cheesy, Geezy, some manner of ridiculousness. But back to the original topic, because I kind of vented off there for a second. I would love to see him kind of tone it down and just speak more from experience than trying to remain this personality that he's had. And it's a little unfortunate, too, because I've heard recently that, like, his commentary has really kind of laxed. I'd like to see him, you know what it is? I love JBL on the announce table, and that might get me some flack, but I want to see him do a JBL, where he's constantly bringing up, like, concepts like, oh, that's a great move, this move was performed well. Just, you know what I mean? Like, he has the capability for that. And don't get me wrong, I'm not putting all the blame on Jerry. Not in the slightest bit. He's not the person I'm going to blame all this on, because I'm sure he has a lot in his earpiece going, say this, say that, say this, say that. Like, one of the most famous things around the internet I see is when people will show an image of the crowd, and they'll, like, quote the crowd saying, like, we want Punk, and then they'll show a picture of Jerry, and they'll say, oh, look at all these fans cheering for Cena. Like, I'm sure he has a lot in his ear as far as trying to, like, make up for what the management wants, but they're just... I see Jerry Lawler in this spiral right now, and his announcing is not great, and the facts and just everything he's doing right now is just making... And the thing is, like, even on Tumblr, I'll frequent certain wrestler tags, like I frequent William Regal to see if he's been doing anything or that kind of stuff, but the Jerry Lawler tag is just filled with hate. Like, every sentence that comes out of his mouth is just berated upon, and don't get me wrong, I know for a fact that Tumblr has the capability to kind of blow off the handle at anything. They'll take one little thing and just kind of make it into this social justice cause. But his tag is significantly filled with hate and criticism, and I mean, he's honestly, and don't get me wrong, I don't like the idea of getting rid of him, but he's getting stale. So either put him with someone young who can kind of challenge him, or let him go into the background and kind of be that wise word person. And I know Jerry doesn't want to do that. Jerry thinks he's 30. He still wrestles for credit. He had a heart attack on air after a match, and yet he still wrestles. Explain that to me. If I had a heart attack doing anything, I would avoid doing that one thing that gave me the heart attack for the rest of my life, just to avoid, dying. And I've been going, wow, 8 minutes certainly goes by fast, don't it? But I'm going to wrap this up real quick, because I figure, like, between, 9 to 10 minutes per episode is fine. No one wants to sit here and listen to me talk for a half hour. But what I will say is, I love Jerry Lawler. Jerry Lawler's always been one of my favorites, but they need to change it up with him, and they need to give him something fresh. And I don't mean fresh as in put him in an angle. Don't have him wrestle people. Give him a chance to do a different announce style, because the one he has right now is just alienating fans. It's not making use of his experience and his talents, and honestly, it's just setting him up to get that little release notice that we all see on WWE every 5 seconds. Alright, so that was my rant. And so just to give a little background, I know that was kind of flipping back and forth, but that's how I want to run these podcasts. I don't really want to structure it too much. I don't want to script it out so it sounds like I'm reading a book. I really just want to be able to do something where I can sit and talk to you guys for, like I said, 9 to 10 minutes per episode and just vent about what I'm thinking about the wrestling world. And I want to hear what you guys think too. If there's a topic you want me to discuss, if there's a question you have, I'd be happy to do like a question segment on here. If you have any questions about like what I think about this or that, or something you don't understand about what I said, please just let me know. Leave a comment down below, or leave a comment. And I'll be happy to get back to it or mention it on the air. You might even get mentioned on the air. I'll totally do that. That's cool. I want to give credit where credit's due. And what I want to do too is I want to do another segment at the end of these little video, audio, podcast things, where I mention stuff going on in wrestling today. Because not every one of the subjects I'm going to talk about here is going to be super relevant or new, but I still want to clue into the current setup of wrestling. So there's been a lot of drama in the wrestling world this past couple months. I mean, first Hogan getting completely obliterated from the WWE after his racist comment, and then Seth Rollins' girlfriend getting fired from developmental for having posted Nazi things on her Twitter, and now Jimmy Snuka being charged for murder after, I think it's been 38 years since the crime first was committed, and they left it open the whole time. So, I mean, so yeah, that's pretty much what they want to talk about. I mean, that's what I want to talk about is just, it's funny. It just kind of all blew up at once, and it's like how Dusty and Roddy just kind of passed away all at once too. I mean, I'll get wrong, these wrestlers are older and they've been through a lot, but it's like, it feels like the wrestling community has been drilled with ridiculousness recently between the unfortunate passing of these legends and then all these firings, and don't get me wrong, Hogan's going to come back. Hogan always comes back. Hogan always does something stupid, gets released, comes back. Seth Rollins' girlfriend, I hadn't seen much of her. I know she had just gotten an angle being the sister of someone, Solomon Crow. Don't crucify me if I'm messing that up. I don't have anything in front of me. But, I mean, the thing is, if she had posted on her Twitter something to do with like wild partying, or you know how WWE cracks down on naked photography and blah 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 blah, like, or something like that. If she had done something like that, I'd feel more lenient. But I mean, Nazi stuff, you can't defend that. There's no justification for posting hateful things, and that's just my opinion. That's just one luchador's opinion here. But and then Snuka, I mean, everyone knew Snuka did it. It was always a running thing in the wrestling community. We all know Snuka did it. I think we're all just completely dumbfounded by the fact that they're finally charging him now. I think the dude's like in his 70s? 60s or 70s? Again, I'm doing this podcast, guys, completely off the cuff. I don't have any research in front of me or papers in front of me. This is just me venting. So my facts are not always going to be 100% correct. But feel free to contradict me in the comments, because that's what people love to do on YouTube, is contradict people. So go for it, man. I appreciate it. I want to know if I'm being wrong or I'm missaying something. But yeah, just a crazy time in the wrestling community right now, and I mean, which is so unfortunate, because I mean, with the resurgence of NXT doing really well, and I mean, I know the Divas Revolution is kind of getting some flack here and there, but I'm kind of, I mean, anything new is at least a chance of has a chance of revolutionizing, or at least improving the current state of things. I mean, there was a time where Divas matches were called beer matches, because that's when you went to go get your beer, and now they're at least focusing on the athleticism kind of, sort of. And no, I'm not going to talk about Eva Marie. I know everybody and their mom wants to talk about Eva Marie. I'm not going to do it, because honestly, I haven't seen enough of her work to judge her, so I'm not going to be that guy. But I'm running a little bit long here, so that's going to be my episode for today. Please like this video if you liked the video. I'm not going to be one of those cheesy, like, comment, and subscribe, guys. No, just if you liked it, cool, like it. If you want to see more of me, then subscribe it. That way you're the first one to see videos when they come out. Like I said, this is on me on YouTube. I'm going to post it on Twitter, Tumblr as well. And then, I mean, yeah, if you have any questions, the only reason, I'll just let you guys know, the only reason I'm doing Tumblr as well is, one, it's just easier to get comments, and people can ask me stuff if they don't want to post it publicly on YouTube or whatever. And also, it's just easier to manage stuff as far as content goes, but I'll be uploading them primarily on YouTube. You can see them on YouTube, or you can check the Tumblr as well and go on there. Yeah, so that's been the show, and I hope you enjoyed it, and tune in next week or hopefully it won't be a week from now. Hopefully I can do another one in the next couple days. I want to keep the uploads kind of frequent on this stuff, so I will see you guys all next week, and enjoy.